What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel for part 2 of What If Rey Joined Kylo Ren in The Last Jedi. For anyone who hasn't seen part 1 of this scenario, I will link that video in the description in case you'd like to go watch that one first. But for those of you who have already seen part 1, I hope you're ready, because this was a really tough one to figure out. So now, without any more delay, let's have some fun. Rey awakened shackled to a wall. She had no idea where she was or how she had gotten there. The last time she remembered feeling any consciousness, she was flying the X-Wing she had stolen from the Resistance base. She just needed some time to clear her head. Ben's actions had reminded her of the man she had not seen since Starkiller Base. She knew he didn't mean to scare her, but whether he would ever be willing to admit it or not, he did lose control. There was still a darkness within him somewhere that he had not yet defeated, and Palpatine had brought it back out. She would help him through it, but first she had to get out of here. But where was here? And how in the world did she get here? And where was Qi'ra? Her daughter was nowhere in sight. She began to twist and pull, suddenly desperate to break free, but it was no use. She settled down again. Where am I? She wondered once more. There was nothing familiar about this place, except maybe... The walls around her began to retreat into the ground, as the dark silhouette of Darth Sidious slowly crept into view, and in his arms rested her child. Rey immediately began to shake with anger and fear as Sidious approached. He stopped a few yards away and then spoke. "If it weren't for me, you'd be dead, you know. Lucky for you, we are connected at our cores. I was watching over you then, just as I've looked after you your entire life. My associates brought you here, to your rightful home." Rey glanced around the room and noticed a group of knights dressed in black armor. She could not say definitively whether she recognized them or not, but something. It was possible that she had seen them before. "Perhaps you will come to thank them at a later date. I know it must have been difficult, seeing your partner relapse the way he has, but that of course is no excuse to put my grandchild in danger. I believe she is better off here, with me." Rey was now boiling with rage, but she remained completely helpless. A smile began to stretch across Palpatine's face as he continued. "Our challengers will soon arrive, and at that time, we will kill them. Together, we will write the final word in the story of Skywalker. Defy me, and both you and your daughter will die." Rey was freed from her restraints as Palpatine stepped aside, clearing the way for her to ascend the throne. "Your time has come, Empress Palpatine." The darkness was beginning to swell within as she found herself in a lose-lose situation. But with her daughter's life on the line, there was no choice to be made. Driven purely by divine maternal instinct, she would ascend the throne and through an ancient Sith ritual take on the Sith spirits of the past. At this point, Rey would have done as Palpatine asked either way, but now there was no going back. She was fully committed to the dark side and all the dark powers that came with it. Over the next 3 days, Sidious would help Rey to unlock and quickly master new abilities that would have otherwise taken a lifetime to achieve. And on the final day, just as Sidious had intended from the beginning, Rey would strike him down, allowing his spirit to pass into her. Empress Palpatine now stood alone, as the single most powerful Sith Lord in galactic history. No Force user would stand a chance against her power. Not even the 2 men who had just landed and were now approaching the Sith Temple. Luke and Ben, 2 Skywalkers. The last anyone would ever know of this bloodline, which was manifested by the Force itself. A tandem that would destroy any single person under normal circumstances was walking into a death trap. They would enter the throne room and be caught off guard by Rey as she attacked them. Luke and Ben were elite swordsmen, unrivaled and unchallenged by anybody for years, but it was only a matter of seconds before they realized they were in over their heads. Rey wielded her double-bladed lightsaber with blazing speed, and utilized a variety of powers neither of them had ever seen before. She was stronger, she was faster, and she was smarter. They were overmatched. But there was one fatal flaw Palpatine had failed to account for. A revelation even Rey herself was unaware of. Something Ben had learned after his one-man raid on Mustafar. Together, he and Rey formed a dyad in the Force. A prophesized bond that allowed them to, among other things, see into each other's minds. Rey had used this bond when they'd first met before either of them knew what it was to gain access to Kylo's power. And now, if he could just stay alive, Ben would do the same. Physically, he and Luke stood no chance, but if he could turn this into a mental game, there might be a chance. Slowly, he wiggled his way back into her mind, pushing through barriers that had not existed until now. Rey continued to attack as Luke and Ben did everything they could to avoid being killed, and finally, Ben broke through. In a matter of seconds, he gained access to one skill after another, as new doors continued to swing open. Ben did not fear the dark side. In fact, he preferred to use it for his own benefit if he could. And so he openly accepted these new skills and quickly understood not only how to use them, but also how to defend himself against them. But Ben became too caught up in his success. His focus shifted away from protection, and as he prepared to shift the tide and go on the offensive, Rey blocked an attack from Luke and then used the other end of her blade to stab Ben through the stomach. She hesitated for the briefest moment, and then leapt back at Luke. But the Jedi Master raised his hand into the air and slammed down toward the ground, creating a massive ripple through the room and sending Rey flying into the wall. Luke was done running. He'd been doing that for far too long. He would now go on the offensive, catching a dizzied Rey on her heels, as she struggled to recover from the shockwave. She sent Force Lightning in Luke's direction, but he caught it with a smile and sent it back to its source. Luke Skywalker had been unleashed. He began to tap back into abilities he had not used in years, wielding the Force at a rate that no other Jedi had ever dreamed of. It was true, no Jedi to this point would have stood a chance. But Luke was unlike any other Jedi. His years of studying and training after the Empire's final defeat were now being put to use for the first time. No enemy had ever pushed him to this point, but now, for the first time in 8 long years, Luke was completely free and stronger than ever before. Still, he could not win this fight without assistance from somewhere. Despite Luke's very best efforts, Rey had regained the advantage. He had to find another way. He continued to fight, slowly losing more and more ground until finally, he heard a cry from the shadows. How had he been so stupid? The child, of course. The child was the key. He and Rey both paused, simultaneously reaching a new common goal. Rey, knowing exactly where the child was, raced for her, easily making it there first, but upon entering the room, she was forced to stop. Ben stood in the center of the room, cradling his daughter in his arms. Feeding off of the dark side of the Force, he had healed his own wound through one of the abilities gained from Rey's mind. But this newfound power did not come without consequence. Ben's intentions had now shifted as well. He was not possessed to the extent that Rey was, but the power of this newfound darkness was far too much to leave unexplored. Luke now approached another doorway to see his nephew. Ben was not willing to join Rey after what he had seen here, nor did she have any interest in that alliance anymore anyways. It was every man for themselves now. The three of them stood with their lightsabers ignited, ready to fight, but all of them equally hesitant to make the first move. Okay guys, so that's going to conclude this part of the story. Now I know that I'm leaving this thing very open-ended, and I know some of you really like to see these stories through to the end, but sometimes I really feel that that can take away from the experience a little bit. I think it's more fun to use these videos to provoke ideas by taking the story in a completely different direction, but then still leaving the conclusion open-ended. So I'm going to end this story here and allow you guys to fill in the rest however you see fit. And although I know some people don't necessarily like that, I hope you can respect it and at least understand where I'm coming from. But with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know in the comments section below. Please don't forget to drop a like on this video to support the channel. And as usual, may the Force be with you always.